So lately I've been breeding a lot of chicks. These little guest stars are from a phoenix. I think just a phoenix chick? I don't know. Everyone just calls it a phoenix. And so we've had some that were kind of loaned out for a little while, and we've been breeding the crap out of them. I gotta say, man, they may not put out a lot of eggs. You may get like one a day, one every other day normally, but we have had the best luck. We had, no joke, a whole, 25 eggs to a rack, and we'll lose maybe 2 out of the entire batch. So we've been breeding these and jungle fowl, and then just our bizarro mutt types that have been laying just a ton of eggs in the heat too, so it's been pretty awesome. So these little cuties are adorable. Look at that little buddy. You go cute. And this tinier one, he was totally chillaxed before. There you go. Normally they're I've been trying to get them kind of hand raised, you know? I don't really like how you have them and you don't interact with your chicks and then they end up all skittish and weird. Although it's kind of a balance, because you don't want them to be the types that follow you around like a dog. So you walk and the second you step out the door, they follow you in like a little procession. I mean, it's cute as a button, but it's kind of a pain if you're just trying to run around and do your business. So I could show you some of the older ones, but those little mofos are gangly and awkward looking. They've aged to the point where they're now like, you know, they have their adult feathers coming in. They just look funky. So I was going to do a little dick around thing this summer. I'm thinking I'll call it the Summertime SHILL'S event. It's going to be nothing but catching you up on some of the garbage that I've been buying in the last couple years. I used to do like the holiday gift giving guide, and I would kind of just run you through basically my Amazon history and just the bizarro crap that you kind of buy. There's all kinds of little things, you know, little trinkets and tools and assistants and parts that you end up getting and go, hey, that's kind of cool. I never even thought of that in hand. Like this, it's a ram ball, except it's threaded so you can use a normal camera tripod. How cool is that? So you have that. You can hook up like a normal X mount, which I will never cease to advertise. Oh, see, another great example. So ram mounts, absolutely wonderful, right? Cannot get enough ram mounts. Even better. So that's the Ram X grip. Great phone holder. So here is the rip-off, no-name Chinese imitation of ram mounts, which I guess Archon. I'll throw you a link for that. These things are pretty. I wouldn't say they're amazing. It's not like they're really any better or worse than the Rams. I think they're still cast if you get the metal ones. The poly version I don't think is all that impressive. I want to say I found one once. They have like an aluminum one. It's a little bit more expensive, but this is just it's like $7 or $8 or something. Pretty good. I don't really feel too bad about buying an imitation ram mount at this point, because I've literally spent a couple $100 on their entire suite. Like, I have all these arms and mounts, and I got sick of it when I wanted a burner to throw on something. I'm just parking outdoors all the time. You can also see, let's see, right there. Yeah, there's a ram ball. That's exactly what it's for here. This is on my desk thing. So, look at that. Pretty handy. And we're doing a just real quick overview of what there is to like and dislike about this thing. Supposedly it's a tool watch. What that means, who the hell knows? I'm sure, like so many things in the watch world, it's kind of a marketing style. You know, people sit there and go, field watch. Which, I have some choice things to say about that. I'll probably do in a separate video. I think it's very interesting how we just keep playing the same time as a flat circle design games. It's basically you're limited to just like 5 archetypes or starter Pokemon when you're designing a watch, and evidently we're going to be stuck doing that till the end of time. So, let me see. Gimmick-wise, this is kind of tool watch, but field-ish. So it's not a dive watch. It's kind of a hardy, mannish, higher-end Seiko. Well, I guess intermediate end. Higher end would be like their 700 to, 1,000 or whatever grand Seikos are, or under the normal Seiko banner. It's intermediate. So around 250 to 350, that seems to be the region. Honestly, when I first saw this thing, I think I mentioned that before. When I first saw this, it brought to mind the constant fear of inflation that we have lately, because it's on my mind a lot when you constantly see stuff getting more and more pricey. There was something I looked for. I was gonna film this the other day, and someone passed along one of those green text shit posts, and there was something about it that I remembered. So this is back in April. I'm gonna read it to you in case, I'm sure the younger dudes have seen this like 9 different times, but if you're not jacked in to the circles that people kind of pass these around in, you might have missed it. So back, April 7th, 2021. So back when the stocks were kind of bouncing up and down, and you had some real excitement. You know, crypto was going high. Freaking, it seemed like it would go high till the end of time. So you had a lot of people kind of getting into it. Said when the first sign of hyperinflation hit the Weimar Republic in early 1921, the national mood was not one of fear or dread, but one of mass excitement and hope. Everyone thought they were getting rich. People sold their houses for twice what they had bought them for just months before. The stock market exploded in value to the point where even janitors were sharing stock tips. People were even selling the furniture out of their homes because it doubled in value overnight. The nation was convinced the economy had recovered from the war entirely. The zeitgeist lasted until 1922. By the end of 1922, 500,000 marks were equal in value to $1 US, and everyone who sold their furniture or invested in German stocks or sold their house was dead fucking broke. Pretty interesting and terrifying when you start looking at that and you go, hey, that's familiar. They thought they recovered. Hey, that's cool. All this stuff went up absurdly in value. And I'm sure people you know are doing that right now. They're saying, dude, can you believe how much my house is worth? You know, I know someone that is still forging ahead with the build of his new place. He sold all excited, like, awesome. They were gonna sell anyway, so they've been wanting to move up, build their own custom thing, bigger, enough space for all the kids, all the animals and everything, and picked a great time to sell, which also happens to be like the worst time to build. And I don't like being the guy that sits there in the side when things fall through and he's like, well, buddy, you should have gotten it in writing. Oh, you sumbitch, you should have gotten it in writing if you cared so much, because it's easy to say that after the fact. But the guy had like a pretty big plot of land, so a family friend they'd been helping out forever had basically promised him for years. Like, oh yeah, you guys are basically my buddy. Oh, it's like you're the kid I never had. You're basically my son. Oh yeah, you know, when I need to move and go to a home, you can have this place for a song and a dance. So they talked pricing. They had something already figured out. Pretty much committed, you know? A handshake deal between people who call themselves... Okay, shut up. They call themselves family in most ways. You know, you don't think that they're gonna screw you out of it. So, of course, what happened is the same song and dance that always happens with realty. Hey, let's bring a realtor into it. Yeah, since we got to do the paperwork, so this guy's just sold his house. Basically has all this stuff lined up to start building right away on this land, and sure enough, realtor comes in. Why are you selling it for this price? Come on, you could be getting so much more. And because people generally don't stick to things, you know, I keep going off topic in these things, but that's part of the fun. Are you shivering, little buddy? Hot as fire. You guys normally survive in like 100 degrees. Alright, I'm going to put these little bastards to bed and I'll be back. Put the chickens to sleep so we can get this show on the road. So, Seiko Atlas or Landshark. I see Landshark a lot. That's kind of the norm from what I can see. Basically, it's a tool watch, whatever that means. I think it's funny. We only have so many watch archetypes. I can't even think of that. Kisai, I think, would be like the only brand off the top of my head that's challenging the assumptions of what makes a watch. I had like that cool Tron one where it just had the little rings for hours and minute hands, and I ended up destroying it when I plugged in the wrong power adapter because it just used one of those. So it's a lesson if you buy one of those. They're going to be pretty expensive because it's like a boutique weirdo electronic watch. But most of the time, they're going to follow general basic patterns. In this case, it's kind of like a field watch, but beefed up. I think it's like a 44 millimeter case, So you can see it's pretty chunky. Got 22 millimeter bands. Probably my favorite size. I like these. They distribute weight well. It's just very good and beefy. Not like super skinny like some of the other ones, because I have some that are like 20. I have some that are 18. I think like a 16 too. My Russian Komandirsky is kind of a funky size. So it's kind of a beefier version. It's bigger than most of the other Seiko lower end affordable 5 series. The 5 series itself, might as well just hit the big stuff. Seiko 5 series, nice movement, fairly accurate, pretty long life if you're winding it up and wearing it for a long time. But the big downside is that you cannot manually wind it. And to me, that's a pretty big deal. This watch you're paying like $200 to $350 around there. Pretty expensive, and you're still stuck manually spinning it around. I don't know. I don't love that, but they had to put the movement to work, and production lines paid for, so might as well keep rocking it. The upside is that you do get some cool badging. You know, the Seiko 5 branding is great. You know, the Seiko thing, like a little applique. So you have a little badge on there. The 5 is a badge, which I love. It's very automotive. It's technical. Having that instead of just like a little applique. And you see it with other stuff. You know, the Seiko 5s normally have it. They're kind of one of the ones that come to mind. This one has like a little sailboat insignia and a very automotive looking thing where it says Spinnaker. That's great. That's awesome. There are only so many ways you can add texture and depth to a dial, and generally people are going to go for the lettering. You know, the name brand is going to be a big one. Like this deep blue, that's just a little slapped on sticker. Kind of cheesy in comparison. I'd much rather have something where it's got badging and branding. So, very cool. Body shape, very interesting. That was kind of the thing that drew me to this. It's like a diver, but not at all a diver. You know, it's not really meant to be submerged. Just telling from the shape of all this stuff, you could see it's not suited to gloves. It's not suited to water. I'll tell you, the bezel action is rad until you get wet. If you have sweat or blood or anything at all, this bezel will be impossible to rotate. Also, the 60, you can tell where I had paint on it, trying to be able to find. Zero differentiation between all these numbers. So theoretically, your 60 should be at the top. That way it's ready when you need to do a timer. But not being it... Oh, see, I spun it too much. I'm watching this through the camera, so it's kind of tough for me. It sucks. It really sucks. In order to improve it, maybe a few scallops, although then we're getting away and more towards dive watch world. See, like this one, you get the big old scallops. Ideally there, so you can rotate it while underwater and while wet. They work pretty well there. But it wouldn't even need to be all that aggressive, really. Just anything. Just a couple. Even like intermittently spaced. You could have them done like every third or every quarter. That way you have something to grab onto, because really difficult as is. It would be nice having, I'm a sucker for loom on the bezel for the numbers. That would be beautiful. I know it's expensive, so not going to show up here. But yeah, anything to be able to just tell better at a glance. Because on something like this, I know you're going for a style, and it looks okay, but it would be nice to just have a little more functionality. That's generally the idea behind a tool watch. So, missing out a little bit there. So, bezel's cool. The compass thing. Now, this is a very interesting feature. I don't know if you would even call it a feature. The idea, I'm pretty sure, is that you can tell what direction the true north is at just by going off of the sun. Every time I've known anyone that has one of these, you go, oh, that's cool. So, have you ever done that just for fun? Like, do you just do it walking around throughout the day? And they're like, I think I need to look up how it works. It's, you know, you don't use it, and it's kind of intuitive if you get the principles, but next thing you know, it's been like 3 years since you last did it, and you're like, oh, wait, which one? Is it south or north? And then you realize the first time you learned about it, you were reading the Australian manual, so you have it all inverted. So, whatever, it's mostly for looks. You know, it's kind of cool to see that the compass indicators there. I mean, it's a fun buy if you have a lot of downtime, like if you're working a job where you're stuck at a desk and you want some kind of trinket to pay attention, and maybe you're working on an instrument rating, so you can practice your holds this way. Just they'll sit there thinking you're spinning on your watch, but you're actually creating your career escape plan. The fact that this just free spins drives me crazy, because every time you look at it, it's not going to be set to north. It's going to be set to whatever that is. There you go. It's going to be what, like 230. You're going to look at that every time and go, ah, crap. You're going to, if you're anal retentive about that stuff. So a little more resistance on this crown would be nice. I had like a little piece of earthquake putty that I jammed in there and just added a little bit of resistance to it, and yeah, it worked out pretty well. By now, it's kind of worn off, but it's been like 8 years since I got this one. It's been around since like 2008, so it's kind of a classic Seiko mainstay at this point. So that crown, interestingly placed. It's got really beefy guards on it, and it's kind of funny that this one gets like bunkers welded onto the side of the watch, but the actual crown, the one that probably needs to be very well protected, just gets like little sloped, nice suave lines there. I think it looks good. It's interesting. It guards this very well. You know, right there, that's how deep it goes in when it's locked. The knurling on this is fairly sharp for something that's so tiny. It's kind of something that surprises you when you feel it. You're like, wow, it's a lot different from this one, because this one certainly doesn't have much traction on it in comparison, but they look really similar. The crown on this is very tiny. I love the placement though. 4 o'clock placement is perfect because it's not jamming into your wrist under flexion or extension, whichever way it is. A lot more cozy. It's just very small, and like I said, not manual winding, so but when it pops out, might as well change this up so you can see the hands and stuff separately. So yeah, it goes in nice and flush. So stylistically, the body's pretty cool. I really like this side profile, and the fact that they brush it is wonderful. It really, I do not like seeing stuff where it's super bright and shiny. Every time I see that, I just think of when the like advertising will always brag, it's 3/16 steel. I'm like, aren't they all? It's harder to find a watch that's not 3/16. I don't know what makes it so special other than the fact that it's all shiny. So once you see this and you wear this for a while, you're like, damn, I wish I could get everything brushed. I'm tempted to do it to this one too. So that's a fine little addition to it, but they don't carry it all the way through. Look at the back. The back is kind of this generic 5 series, like shiny one. Same with the band. I took the band off and it's lost somewhere in a drawer. I generally don't like steel bands. This one was no exception. I kept it on not even that long. I found the links to be kind of homely. I mean, they're tool watch-ish. The clasp on it was pretty good. Your standard, like, overbuckle thing, and then 2 little pins that you clip out. But it was too shiny, and the lugs were fairly big. Or each body and each link was just, it wasn't fine. I like a good fine metallic band if I'm going to use it. Like, ideally, the shark mesh, I love that stuff. That's beautiful to me, but you don't see that very often. So body-wise, I give it like an 8 out of 10, really. It's very unique, it's different, and it has a very masculine presence. Very, almost tactical. Like, as far as Seikos go, this one is something that you could wear like in tactical stuff or just in dress stuff. It really does kind of span that whole range. It's a little bit beefier though, so maybe you won't like that, but the crystal on it seems to be pretty well protected. It's just slightly inset. Doesn't really feel like it, but I mean, I've been trunching around with this thing and I have yet to really mark up the Hardlex crystal. Hardlex, whatever it is, pretty sure that's just Seiko's in-house crap that they had to give a special marketing name to. And that's kind of the name of the game for other stuff here. Like the Lume is Lumabrite, which I'm pretty sure is an in-house thing too. Not a name brand. Like, I think Super Luminova is my favorite. I've got a couple things with that on it, and they rule. A little bit of light, and they are just beaming for like an hour afterwards. This one, relatively weak. Downsides, not many. Size-wise, it's got a good band size, good overall heft, good design. Now, face, pretty likable. You know, you have a lot of depth. You have the badging. Mention that. I love that. The appliques down below, water resistant, 200 meters, automatic, 23 joules. Maybe not necessary. You know, it's kind of boring to brag about joule number these days since everything's been mechanized. It's not like you're paying a small little Swiss elf to hand carve rubies and garnets to inset them in your beautiful timepiece. Whatever. It's just more text, and for the guy that buys this, he's gonna like it. The guys that go for this are going to be the more technical or the more hands-on types. They're the guys that like cars and motorcycles and planes and stuff. You know, stuff that has complexity to it. So when they look at a face, they don't think this looks busy, they think it looks technical. They're accustomed to seeing like switch panels and labels under every little button. So carrying over to the watch, they're pretty excited. Whereas something like this, and this one isn't even like an unbusy one. You know, you have some type on the bottom, you have some type on the top. I can't read it through the camera here. Hell, I can hardly read that with my eyes. It's very hard to read. That red on brass is difficult. I don't know, maybe you can read that better than I can. But see how there's a lot of space in there? It's just a bit more room to breathe and read. Just stylistic. It kind of depends on if you like that or not. Its fellow Seiko 5 timepiece has pretty much the exact same thing on there. Bragging about the joules, bragging about the auto, bragging about the water resistance of 100 meters on this. So, not a ton of water resistance. It's not meant to be a dive watch, but it does all right for itself. Make sure, yeah, 200 meters. So, pretty cool. Just make sure you screw it down, and you are good to go, my man. Yeah, I already complained about the back. The 5 series is kind of an interesting system in Seiko's lineup. It's definitely there as, I wouldn't say a price point. It's not meant to be super cheap. The cheaper one, like the cheapest field watch version, which oddly enough looks a lot like this. That was my intro to automatic watches, and I loved it. I had a tan one, and it was, I think, like 45 bucks back in the day. They freaking ruled as far as deals go. But great introduction one. Great for kids, especially. It's a little small for adults if you get the tiny one. But this is like the bigger version, and I think this is about 4 times the price of the smaller version. I love this one, though. Perfectly sized. The band on it I've really come to dig. Like, there's something about this. It's really hard wearing. It's got, like, the stitched reinforcement for the holes. I'm kind of wanting, like, more of these. It's just that thick canvas. It bends well. It's very flexible and cozy. It's got, like, that seatbelt weave. There's just something about it. I can't quite put my finger on, but it rules. One thing this does perfectly. Gives you an exhibition case back. Honestly, you should have it on everything. If you have an auto movement, you should have an exhibition back. Clear, so you can see the I don't care if the movement's not very handsome. You know, this one's pretty utilitarian. It's the same movement that's in this thing. So why can't we see it? Well, at this price point for a couple $100, they're probably thinking, yeah, we can't show off that many machine marks. That's just embarrassing. You know, that looks pretty janky. I wouldn't want to have our name on that. No sirree. So you're stuck with this shiny, compact mirror so you can put on your makeup. Back to the face. All right, so Indices, I like the font. It's pretty good. It's not too different, but it is kind of this modernist. You can kind of tell on the 6, it has this slight tilt, you know, like futuristic vibe. I like these, just that how each index is very crisp and just a big rectangle. Under Lume, it really kind of rounds them out. And I kind of prefer it that way. Every time the lights go out with it and I look down and go, oh, that's really cool. And then I forget that's just the Lume. Because these being rounded, I'm just kind of a sucker for rounded. My favorite font is like the altimeter font that used to be hand painted on. So it's very roundish and kind of friendly, but old fashioned. And it's something that's hard to find because so often they just do hard modern numbers. And I always kind of get the vibe that somewhere these watch manufacturers just have piles full of numbers that they all just share, because the amount of times you see one specific type of 7 or 2 that's used everywhere, it kind of drives you crazy. But at least we're not in the old days where you used to, like, 7 was just an upside down 2 in some weird font. That was always kind of cheesy looking. So pretty good aside from that. The hands, second hand on it's lovely. Very, you know, high beat, just like everyone should have. I'm still a sucker for, what is this, like 21,600 or something, whatever the beats are. I think that's how it should be. Anytime I look at a ticking second hand, it makes me feel like I'm in 4th grade again. It just reminds me of staring at the clock for so long and having it drive me up the wall. But this is much busier. You know, at first glance, you can hardly tell what the hell's going on back there. Honestly, I've worn this thing for years. I've used the little slide rule a couple times, and at first blush, I still can't tell you what the hell's going on. I need to bone up on the manual and learn how to reuse all that stuff, because I really like this little... Isn't that cute? Very cool. Anyways, so hands, I wish the hour hand were just a little bit longer. I feel like it's kind of short and stumpy. You know, it has that little stick out portion to point, but very precise. I do like that. I like something where it has a good sharp little thing, so you can see, like, for minutes. Just a lot easier to do an accurate to the minute. Something like this. You know, a good arrow, but it's going to be kind of hard to see those things if you're out and about. The little tiny white lines will kind of get lost in the busyness of the dial. So you just kind of go, it's 8:43. I'm just going to put in like halfway between here and there should be close enough. Good to go. Yeah, go on with your life. So aside from that, your date window. This one is, oh yeah, I flipped it when I was filming this earlier. The window's bounded by that little silvery thing. I wish that was matte like the rest of the body, but whatever. I like that it's a black dial. Those always look a lot better. Although the white, you can argue, is easier to read. It's a little more legible when you have that. Aside from this one, so this one, you can see it's got the Made in Japan on the bottom. You can see it right by the 6. Made in Japan. There is a version I'm pretty sure is made in Malaysia. Because when I bought this one, I was very careful to track down the JDM variant. Not really all that necessary. You know, it's so small, it's not like you're going to see the Malaysia part on it. And I have heard people say it's the same bosses. So you have the same slave drivers working at the Japanese factory and the Malaysia factory. So it's not like you're going to get less out of your Malaysian one. But I just kind of chose this one because it has a little bit higher resale. You know, people do tend to like the Japanese-made stuff. And it's getting increasingly rare over time, although Seiko's probably going to stay there forever, so I wouldn't worry too much about this being discontinued all of a sudden. But still, something to think about. You may be able to find this. I would have to guess that there's like a version with Spanish index instead, but who knows. So yeah, I pitched the links and the straps. That's somewhere gone forever. So how does it stack up against its rivals? Looking around, I'm seeing, like, you know, let me see what recent used prices. So, UK one sold for $366. Yeah, it's a lot, man. $225, $235. All right, there was a white-faced Atlas that sold for $207. That's pretty good. But most of the time, around like $220, $250. So pretty high, if you were to ask me. If you're out there shopping and you're looking around, kind of hard to recommend something that's using the 5 movement. You know, not a super high dollar movement, not really running in that circle, so you're basically paying to get this tool aesthetic and the build. It's not bad, it's just, I can think of some pretty tempting things to get for that amount of money. Like this one is, bring up the actual name of it so I know I'm telling you the right thing, because this is SNK, I believe, SNK809. You're going to see it's pretty much the same thing. It's got that classic field watch thing. You have 24-hour indicators underneath the giant letters, or giant numbers. Really good index. Everything about it's great. Granted, you're going to lose out on the bezel and this compass thing, so that's too bad. But you're going to save about 50, 70, maybe even like $100, depending on how much you get this for. Tempting. There's a lot of stuff other than Seiko, but you're going into like weird boutique brands like this. I'm not going to tell you the price of that, but you could definitely get one of these, and this is a lot stronger design language than this. Let's see, where's that deep blue? Deep blue, I want to say, was about probably $100 less. I think I paid like $120 for this when it was on sale. They do all kinds of flash sale, weird stuff. Pretty much every holiday under the sun will get you some deals. Pretty tempting to get one of these instead. Having manual winding is very awesome. I don't know. Just, so would I buy it? At $350? No way. At $250? Maybe. I mean, I suppose I did at some point in the past. I can't tell you how much I paid for this. I don't remember where I bought it and when. It seems kind of strange to me, and that's why I brought up inflation earlier, because when I was looking at it, I could have sworn I paid like $120 for this, or $140 max. To suddenly look around and see that it's $250 is kind of wild to me. So, would I buy it? Man, probably not. I mean, I might even sell this one, so if you see it on the T&P store soon, now you know where it comes from. So, that's the kickoff to our summertime SHILL'S event. Expect more ridiculous ways to waste your hard-earned money. Some of the other stuff on here. This finger patch, I'm probably bringing back. I'm going to do a small run of those again, if anyone wants them. That's my Cerakoted Pacific Salt, which I really, man, I love this knife. I never thought I would like the Pack Salt as much as I do. I know it's basically the same as any other poly-handled folder of theirs, but man, it's just so simple and awesome. It never rusts on you. Beautiful. I found this at the store, actually. This is like $3. This is the Matchbox Top Gun toy. This is like the, is it the Pakfa? Russian aircraft they have. Pretty cool. Anaheim Electronic stickers. I actually had those custom made when we were doing our other T&P stickers. So I've got a bunch of rolls of those. I got like the bigger one, smaller one. I may sell those off sometime if anyone else wants them like I do. That is a Gyrail Scharfrichter. It's Iron-Blooded Orphans Gundam model with an option kit, I think. The normal Gyrail's got like a standard mech head where it's just a square-looking sensor, kind of boring. This one's carrying the Zaku 5 machine gun and the option kit hover system, which I never painted. I just cheeseballed it up, and now it bugs me seeing it. But I always thought that was a pretty cool little option kit. And he has like this armor on the side, and then his little things. And in that, the Mythos, he's carrying the mining equipment because they don't have a lot of military suits. And so this is one that PMCs had gotten that was thrown away by the main military system. But in the course of trying to find actual weaponry for it, it turns out it's kind of hard to buy big old axes and stuff for giant robots. So it's easier to get the mining equipment and use that instead. So pretty cool. Not really sure what else to talk. I think these IBO kits are going to get rarer and rarer. They're kind of my favorites because they have an inner frame, so it's really easy to do detail and separate coloration because all the armor comes out. Pretty cool system. This is, I forget what brand. Is this Daron? I think so, kind of a generic one. Pretty sure, is this a Twin Otter? ATR, that's what it was. ATR-72. Got a couple of these that are handsome little desk trinkets. The M-Kusta Katana. Lovely, lovely knife. Beautiful. Pretty sure you can still get them too. They aren't prohibitively expensive, especially for the amount of quality you get. I mean, this blade from the factory is just insanely sharp, really. I'm surprised every time I use it still. Lovely. And this one, what was this? This is the Nighthawk AT, and I'm pretty sure the cost on this one has inflated too. Last time I checked, I couldn't find one less than like $450 or so, and I want to say we paid maybe $350 for this when I got it, which would put it in direct competition with this mofo. And I gotta say, between the two of them, this probably would win every time. I love the style. I love the fact that it's got this really cool particular band. I'll do a separate review of this one sometime. Get an excuse to go in the air and do some dick around flight where I can use the slide rule functions. Pretty cool, huh? Alright. Video 1 complete. Hopefully we'll have a better mic for the next one. I gotta go feed my chickens anyways. And bring out my newest batch, so have fun. See you guys next time.